matter of the derelict Golden Sands Hotel, and Alderman Manning then spoke for about 5 minutes on how we shouldn't upset the Trades Hall Council, that they'd taken over the function of the now defunct and discredited Builders Labourers Union in regard to green bans. This sort of brought things to a head, and I made the statement that I did, that it seemed to me that the city was being somewhat under the control of the Trades Hall Council, or words to that effect. I refused to retract these words because it was my opinion, and I felt quite free to state it. And that's the way the matter ended. An attempt was made by the Deputy Lord Mayor to gag me or to have me retract, but the council decided otherwise on the vote.
You said that you were, the council will have to try and protect the East End residents from their own folly. What did you mean by that?
Well, it seems to me that the Newcastle East Residents Group appear to want to live right beside squalor and dilapidation. The City Council has bent over backwards to cooperate with these people, and also with the Trades Hall Council, I might say, and the Builders Labourers Union. And we've bent over backwards. We haven't even called tenders to demolish this particularly unsightly and unsavoury part of Newcastle.
Mr Wilson, what do you think of Alderman Palmer's statements in the committee meeting last night?
I think Alderman Palmer is making an emotional statement, and I think he's remiss in trying to get down and discuss with the people and solve the problem at hand.
What do you think of Council's position generally over the East End, and particularly the Sands Hotel?
Well, I think that they've failed miserably to carry out the law that applies to any property holder to make secure the buildings, and we think that if the unions have been remiss in any way, it's the fact that we've left it to the council and they've failed to do this. It is the residents' wish that we put the ban on to stop demolition, and we will carry that through along with the people until they receive satisfaction.
So the solution, as you see it at the moment, is for council to secure the building?
That's the immediate matter, and it's been there for some 2 years, and the council has failed miserably, and they must be held responsible for the state of the buildings, including the 3 or so many fires that have taken place. They are responsible and no one else.
The most important immediate areas would be probate. We are very concerned here in relation to the matrimonial home and hardship that may be experienced by a widow. We are looking at intestacy because there are hardships created when someone dies and doesn't leave a will. I would say that education, particularly in relation to ethnic groups, or in the case of women who want to return to employment, the need for education, re-education there is rather an urgent matter.
Well, in what you found out already, has anything surprised you?
Not really, because the women who make up the board are women who have had a lot of experience over quite a number of years with women and their problems.
Do you think women in our society as it is now, speaking very generally, are at a disadvantage, legally and otherwise?
They're at a disadvantage in 2 ways. One, it can be a misinterpretation of the law, and the fact that they do not know their own rights. Now, that is one of the greatest problems that the members of the board see. Women do have rights, but they are not aware of them. And unless they're aware of them, then they're not in a position to ask for what is rightfully theirs.
To get evidence or submissions for these reports that you're making to the Premier, how are you getting them? Are you going around the state talking to women's groups or what?
Yes, we are, and we are wanting to come back to Newcastle and to Maitland. We would want to meet as many women and as many representatives as women's organisations as it was possible to arrange.
When do you think this would be?
I would say a month or two at the outside.
Alderman Bennett, the chairman of the meeting, had ruled that only one part of a document submitted to these two committees should be discussed at the meeting. This meant that our terms of reference from the Newcastle East Residents Group, which was to discuss the whole paper, could no longer be fulfilled. We were amazed that only part of the document was to be discussed. The document is printed on council paper. We had been invited by council to this meeting, thinking that they wished to discuss the whole document. There was no suggestion only part of it would be discussed. So we felt that the first part of the document was so dependent on the second part that there was no purpose in our staying to discuss. Perhaps these will be items for another meeting of council, but certainly today the chair had ruled, and despite attempts by some aldermen to have that ruling reconsidered, so that we could stay and discuss fully the document before us, other aldermen and the chairman did insist that only the first part of the document was available for discussion.
Do you feel that you came to the meeting willing to offer a compromise and that has been defeated?
Yes, we spent 3 or 4 hours last night, the same group of people, reaching compromises of attitude so that we could make this a productive meeting. If we had wanted to block the council, we wouldn't have come. We would have just dug our heels in and said no, plan for the East End or nothing. But we have said we'll discuss Pacific Park as a separate planning issue, not the whole East End, but they've refused discussion even on that, even though it relates very, very definitely to the car park and other traffic and parking issues that we've raised in these other 12 items. So it seems to me that we've come as far as we can to compromise. It will now be for the council to come to us and suggest very clearly the terms of another meeting.
Is it already determined that this road will go down the western side of the lake?
No, not at all. At this stage it is totally open to input. We have made no decisions. We are at the moment looking towards a decision-making point fairly soon.
Well, you're not a highway engineer by any means. You're
By no means.
Social, well, I don't know quite what the term is.
Well,
how did you get involved in this anyway?
Social researcher. Well, the firm I worked for is MSJ Keys Young Urban Planners, and we are working at the request of the Federal Bureau of Roads, doing a social impact study on both proposals, the eastern, so-called western corridors.
That means putting it in the most basic layman's terms, you're here to find out what the people want.
Exactly, yes. That's
What about
we're
what they
looking for.
need?
What they need and what they want, I hope, will come out of our discussions.
Well, apart from going around and asking them, how do you find out?
Well, at the moment, we're trying to tap all types of community sources, and we're trying very hard to generate people in the various areas which could be affected getting together and forming a collected opinion. and feeding it into us
Is there
by
such an
letter.
opinion?
Well, we have yet to find out. I think on the eastern area there
Yeah.
is a fair degree of statement which has been made, but I think in the western area we're very scant on resources. We do not know at all what the people in the western region, West Lakes and the coalfields, think of the proposals, and
Well,
we're wanting to tap that.
I gather that apart from sort of going out and seeing them as individuals, you've called a public meeting. Can one public meeting, regardless of where it's held, really decide anything for you?
If the people want to make an input, find out it's on, and we can give the meeting sufficient publicity, I should think that we should get a fair tap, a finger on the pulse anyway, of the type of thinking that is going on.
Well, it's a hot subject in this area. You better tell us where the meeting is.
Well, the meeting's at Cardiff High School, and it's next Thursday, the 26th, at 8 o'clock in the evening.
Tony, you're coming to Newcastle to play. Is there any particular reason why?
Well, I was asked by the Walls End Club to come up and play comp for them, and I thought about it a bit, and I thought, well, you know, it's good for me because I'm getting another pennant match a week. I also play in Sydney once a week in their pennant competition. It's good for squash in Newcastle because it should make it a little bit stronger for them, and maybe some of the other clubs will get other Sydney players up here to play.
Now, you've played in Newcastle many times before. The standard in Newcastle, is it going to help you keep your game in touch?
Yes, well, it will, because a lot of the players that I'll be playing up here also play in the Sydney competition. So I play them, you know, maybe I'll play one guy from Newcastle every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
And there's no sort of worry about playing in two competitions?
No, most of the nights in Sydney, most of the teams in Sydney play either Tuesday or Thursday night. In Newcastle they all play Friday night, so there's no problem, you know, they don't clash or anything.
And with squash, is it growing again?
Oh yes, it hasn't stopped. It'll grow for years, you know. The more courts that go up, the more it'll grow, but it's just the lack of courts that's stopping it from growing.
And the standard, how is it at this stage?
Oh well, it's still improving. It's, you know, the amount of people that are playing, and with the money coming into the sport now, it's making it a lot harder, you know, to become the best sort of thing. And everybody wants to be the best.
And when do you have your first competition game in Newcastle?
I think it starts the 28th of July, which is about 4 or 5 weeks.
And will you be practising in the meantime?
Oh yeah, this afternoon.
The Children's Committee probably wants to do two things. We're trying to extend the use of the existing facilities that we have and to integrate those programs together, integrate them with new services, and then move out to provide, obviously, more new services for a community.
What about specifically here in this area?
Well, the Interim Committee for the Children's Commission in April announced the funding of 2 long day care programs in the area, 13 new preschools, 2 extended hours for existing preschools. We paid off 3 mortgages and renovated 1 building. I think we also had a May vacation program running in a district and an after-school program running in Carrington.
Now, you've made it clear that your primary concern is for the welfare of the child, but I believe you're also catering for mothers in some respect too.
Yes, well, you have to look at the component of the service we provide. The preschool is usually sessional, and this supports the mother at home. We're asking that they open the doors for the mother to be involved in the educational component of it, so she can meet other mothers in the preschool, or she can choose to have a day off, of course, and put the child there and go away. But of course she can learn the art from the educationalists of caring for her child.
Where do you go from here? What are the future trends in this area?
Well, more women are working, and obviously there is a great demand for longer day care. Support for children in the after-school hours. I'd hope that programs get together with one another, that we can use existing buildings if anyone out there's got an empty one, and that perhaps we go where the community asks us to go.
Well, it's been necessary to close down the Mayfield plant because the general Australian demand for phthalic anhydride has been drastically reduced over, say, the last 12 months.
Why?
I think for two reasons. One is the general downturn of the country's economy, of course, has reduced the purchase of goods.
Well, what range of goods would have used this product?
Well, a number of goods, such as boats, fiberglass boats, the phthalic anhydride content there, paint, alkyd resin paint is phthalic anhydride is a basic chemical there. So with a downturn in the building trade, you can see that there's a reduction in the need for manufacturing phthalic anhydride.
Well, I believe there's about 40-odd employees here who are going to be affected by it. What's going to happen to them?
Well, it is our intention to ensure that those men are placed in alternative work. That is our intense desire. That is what we will do.
Is there any possibility of the plant being reopened at all?
As far as we see from the markets, there could be 12 months, but it's very, very hard to put an exact figure on it. But we propose to keep the factory under a care and maintenance situation in the hope that the markets and demand for the product will increase, in which case we will be able to restart the plant.
Response is coming on quite well. We have now, I think, about 30 volunteers, whereas we only know about 20 people who are in need of the service.
What the system is that the volunteers go to the library and select books to take to housebound people, is that?
Yes, they may do the selecting themselves, or the library staff will help them. But initially they find out from the housebound people what their reading interests are, and we create a record enabling us to supply different books each time.
About how many people would you think would be in need of this service, Newcastle housebound people?
I should think there would be hundreds of people who are unable to leave home themselves and haven't got anybody to go for them.
So if you're asking if anybody is in this situation and would like books brought to them, to contact the library, is that it?
Yes, indeed. We'd very much like to hear from them in order to be able to help them. We think we can with the aid of all these volunteers coming from the churches and service clubs in particular.
raise?
Well, we're trying to raise $50,000.
Why?
We're going to the Butlins Youth Championships in Great Britain to be held in the Royal Albert Hall. And the pick of the youth, there's 7,000 boys competing to get into the bands against us. They choose from 8 bands to final, and there'll be the winner from last year plus an international band coming over, and that'll make 10 finalists, and we're hoping to get into that.
And you're going to England regardless to compete in this, is that right?
That's it.
And how many boys locally does it involve?
We're taking 36 boys with 4 adults to handle them.
And how long have you got to raise the money?
Till 26th of September.
Well, I feel that as far as the Church of Vietnam is concerned, because it's unified and national, it'll continue. The Church has survived 30 years of war, and I feel they'll continue to grow in the future.
But your mission that you were at is probably no longer in existence, is
No,
that right?
all Western missionaries are out of the country now, except 5 missionaries, and of course Peter Whitlock, your own reporter, is present prisoners of the North Vietnamese.
What do you think would be the attitude to people like Whitlock there?
Well, I find it difficult to understand why they'd keep Peter, especially seeing he's an Australian citizen, and we do have an embassy in Hanoi, and 2 of our missionaries are Canadians. There's no reason why they should keep them.
And they're kept there too, are they?
There's 5 missionaries and Peter Whitlock, plus several other Americans.
Was it hard for you to get out? What happened to you?
Well, we got out of Pleiku on an Air America flight one day before the city was given to the communists. But it wasn't difficult for us to get out, no.
What was the atmosphere in the city at the time?
Very tense. The population didn't want to remain in Pleiku when it was given over, and they tried to get out by their hundreds of thousands. We've had some very sad reports of massacres and people being ambushed on the road trying to get out of Pleiku.
to go back to you half a minute?
Half of that. Where? On the end of it. On the end of it. One of those.
The woman, 25-year-old Mary Ann Hayes of Minmai Road, Wallsend, was charged with having murdered Keith Owen Hayes at Wallsend last Saturday. He died from wounds sustained when he was shot as he left the Racecourse Hotel at Wallsend. At the Newcastle Magistrates Court, the police prosecutor, Sergeant C. Fraser, told the court that threats had been made against the woman's life at Wallsend and Newcastle police stations yesterday and at Wallsend Court today. Sergeant Fraser said that 2 relatives of the dead man had been arrested outside Wallsend Court this morning, and one of them was found to be carrying a large knife in a bag. Sergeant Fraser said that because of the grave fears held for the woman's life, it was decided to bring her to Newcastle Court. Mr. R.L. Radford, SM, remanded Mary Ann Hayes in custody at the Long Bay Remand Centre to appear on July 28.
present membership, we are working since 1970.
And do you specialize in any particular type of music?
Well, I don't think so. We play the standard repertoire, although at home we do very much of the modern music, modern string quartets written today. In the past 4 years, we've introduced 22 string quartets of young Hungarian composers.
Are composers writing more for the string quartets now than they used to?
Yes, they seem to, and I think they're doing quite well, it seems to us.
You're satisfied with the music they're writing?
Yes, definitely. All the pieces we have played quite a few times, and I always manage to find newer and better ideas in every piece, so I don't think there's not one. Perhaps there are one or two that, didn't appeal too much to me. But I think we, as a young, comparatively young string quartet, is our job to introduce these string quartets, and it's the job of oncoming generations to decide whether it was worthwhile or not, I think so.
And how do these young Hungarians, how are they received overseas? You play a lot overseas, I guess.
Yes, but we haven't played too many of these. We've played 2 or 3 overseas, fearing perhaps that they're not, as the composer, not too well known. We don't want to do too much of that in other countries, and doing instead the standard repertoire.
And it's a standard repertoire concert you're playing tonight, for instance?
Yes. We are playing Mozart's Köchel number 458, The Hunt, B-flat major, and we're playing Raphael's string quartet, F major, and in between we're playing Bartók's 3rd string quartet. Therefore we're starting with Mozart, and then Bartók number 3, and then Raphael to finish the program.